All right, what do we got here? Big man FD, big man himself, the infamous, I guess, famous. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'll be honest. Video essayist who I think is like he really likes talking very often about leftist politics and with like a focus on a lot of black issues. Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense. Sure, he's got something to say about Zoran Mamdani and Bernie Sanders. And something we should know about FD, he has a big problem with white leftists. I wonder why he has a big problem with white leftists. Let's begin.
Mania is sweeping New York and the nation, but I'm worried that progressives aren't ready for what might come next.
Sure.
So, if you're in any way politically engaged and you've seen New York mayoral candidate and winner of the Democratic primary for that position, Zoran Mamdani, on your screen or feeds a lot in the past few months. Mamdani came out of nowhere to somehow beat Democratic establishment choice and adjudicated sex pest Andrew Cuomo, a man that was for a moment being eyed as a presidential campaign hopeful way back in 2020 as he governed the state of New York.
We love that for
Cuomo
Zoran.
Co-signed from Chuck Schumer, Amy Klobuchar, and Jim Clyburn, along with the funding and support of the Democratic establishment. And while his sordid past did him no favors, the real reason he lost isn't just that, it's because the magic behind Zoran Mamdani.
Did the DNC? I'm like, okay. I have like no. I'm not. This isn't like a knock yet against like FD. Okay. Did the DNC fund? He got like a bunch of endorsements from Democratic national establishment candidates, right? Because he was the establishment candidate, obviously. But did he get like funding from the DNC? He probably did. I have no reason to assume he didn't, right? Through like the super PAC or something. Because what? It's mostly like DoorDash, Bill Ackman, and a couple of other like billionaires who funneled money through Cuomo's super PAC. It's just a little nitpick. Yeah, it's just mostly like a little nitpick, curiosity that's just like entered my brain.
He has a unique and dynamic background. He's incredibly charismatic, and he ran on a platform of basic and feasible policies. Some might call them kitchen table policies that support the working class of New York with sensible changes to the way things work up there to make it easier for people who actually have normal jobs to make a living and live in the city that they love. Because I am not in New York, I only paid passing attention through my New York peers and other pundits paying attention to the situation. But when I did watch a little bit of Mamdani over the past couple of weeks, I feel like, yeah, he might have something special, which is why a lot of progressives are excited. Mamdani's success could signal to other progressive figures as well as the Democratic establishment as a whole that it's time to abandon the neoliberal oligarchical framework of the party, which is how it's been ran since Clinton won the presidency in 1996. And this has degraded the Democratic Party from the lesser of two evils to just the other evil over the last 30 years. There's a lot more broader implications to the success of Mamdani that I'll let others cover. There's a whole conversation about putting faith in the electoral system to begin with as well, which I'm not going to get into right now. There's also the fact that highly progressive candidates and outright socialists have been elected to offices before without great results because they haven't had the backing that they needed from people after their election.
Mostly from the independent PAC, not the DNC. That's what I also thought as well, right? I don't like, as far as I could tell, because it would have been reported if he got support from the DNC. He didn't get it was all just a super PAC. Now, could have they have funneled money through the super PAC and it's like a dark money thing? Maybe, but isn't that like a legally dubious thing to begin with? I'm just like rambling. It doesn't really matter at that point.
Elected, something I talked about in my stream clips video the other week. But what I want to talk about today is one specific thing that can make this a non-starter to begin with, considering that his opponent in the final election is current mayor Eric Adams, and that in the primary, Zoran won every major group of voters except one, black people. And I don't think y'all understand.
Besides black people. Well, we've talked about this before, right? Like, conservative, like, older black people, because those are more than likely the people who vote for the sort of, like, establishment candidate, right? Because constantly when you would see like Eric Adams or say Andrew Cuomo, they were at like black churches and shit like that doing like events. And that was like the only instances where you really see any of them. And of course, again, older black people are more than likely, even despite the fact that they're conservative, are probably not really going to vote for the Republican Party, considering the fact that, well, they're kind of racist. I don't think that's like ridiculous to say, even though like there was like the shuck and jive comments that was there primarily speaking for Andrew Cuomo when he was talking about Barack Obama. But again, like, what about like younger black people, right? My assumption is that they broke mostly for Zoran. Let me see. Voter demographic breakdown. Zoran Mamdani. Do we have any like research into this? Did Democrat Zoran Mamdani struggle with black and working class voters? Question mark. As far as I can tell, this is like kind of bullshit or something. Well, let me see. I'm curious. Mamdani scored an upset, right? Beat Cuomo by 12 points. Sure. Let's see. Preliminary results suggest that Mamdani struggled in lower income neighborhoods in Brownsville and East Flatbush, where Cuomo took a marked lead. In both of those areas, more than 60% of residents are black. The neighborhoods also share high poverty rates, with Brownsville at 32.4% and East Flatbush at 18.9%, compared with the citywide rate of 18.2%. One of the widely cited analyses from the New York Times found that 49% of precincts with a low-income majority tilted towards Cuomo, compared to with 38% for Mamdani. I'm very curious. What's the age breakdown of this? That's like the question that I immediately have here, right? Like, how many older people live within East Flatbush and Brownsville, right? Because those are more than likely going to be the people who break for Andrew Cuomo, just to vote for the establishment candidate. Because again, for the sort of like main concern for older black voters, generally speaking, is quote unquote electability, whatever that exactly means. In a precinct with a majority of black residents, the pro-Cuomo number rose to 51%. Statistics raise questions about whether Mamdani's promise to restore affordability in New York failed to resonate, or whether numbers conceal a more complicated story. Big name opponent. Mamdani was a distant second amongst 9 possible candidates with 11% support. Experts say Cuomo had several factors weighing in his factor. Jerry Skurnick, a political consultant, pointed out that Cuomo was a well-known figure before June's primary. Not only was Cuomo a two-time governor, but he's also the son of a former governor. That's it. Also, like, yep, big point, right? A lot of people are just going to sort of like vote for the guy they've probably heard about. So like, oh, Cuomo, yeah, we'll just go with that guy. Whatever, sure. Stints for President Clinton. Most people expected Cuomo to do well in minority areas. Yeah, because like again, didn't like Zoran Mamdani do really well with like Asian minorities and a bunch of other minorities as well, Latinos as well. He did very well. Skurnick said points out Mamdani defied the odds. The New York Times analysis suggested that voters in their 20s and 30s turned out in significantly higher numbers than in the 2021 mayoral primary. Yeah, didn't he also score the most votes, basically, ever recorded in a New York City mayoral Democratic primary? He had the highest amount of voter percentage, right? Not voter percentage, but number of voters. Yeah, okay. According to risk adverse. For low-income families in the black community, I think very much the calculus is not so much who's the best candidate, but which candidate am I risking the least, or am I least likely to lose? Right. That's the whole electability argument, which is like an incredulous, idiotic argument that is like trotted out by the establishment to try to discredit left-leaning candidates. He pointed out that low-income voters leaned rightwards towards Republican Donald Trump in 2024 presidential election, despite Democrats having a stronger anti-poverty element in their agenda. Didn't like a majority of like workers and also like more upper middle class like managerial types end up coming out to vote for Mamdani, because those are all demographics, broadly speaking, that skew younger, if I recall correctly. Because again, like quite literally, like Mamdani did very, very well with a lot of like younger voters specifically. Some conservative commentators seized upon New York Times analysis to arrive at a different interpretation about why certain voters might perceive risk in Mamdani's campaign. Speaking of Fox News, strategist Karl Rove from the Republican Party, cited statistics to argue that low-income voters may fear the tax burden that might accompany greater anti-poverty spending. Sure, man. I don't think that's the main reason for as to why low-income voters ended up breaking for Andrew Cuomo. I think it's more so a lot of these people are, I would broadly speaking say that what it's probably a lot of like older, poor, like black, more conservative voters that ended up probably voting more significantly for Andrew Cuomo, if I had to take a guess, right? Because they're just going to go ahead with the dude that's like the most selectable. They're always going to vote for a Democrat. They're never voting for the Republican. So, yeah, I mean, Adams has also, raised taxes and fees a lot as well. Like, that's not the thing, right? Even in low comment, even in some black and low income neighborhoods, Dondia pointed out that Mamdani came out on top. Again, I would really like to know what the age demographics are. Because again, more than likely, I think it's younger black voters who probably voted significantly for Zohran Mamdani. Because again, same thing happened with Bernie Sanders. A lot of younger black voters voted for Bernie Sanders. Same dynamic, but older black voters voted for the more electable candidate in Joe Biden, right? Like I think that's the dynamic that we are seeing here specifically at play. Despite the fact that, well, the Democratic Party doesn't really give a shit about them whatsoever. Communities are constantly evolving as their politics. One battle. Professor emphasized every election style is different voters' priorities shift. Pointed out that during the last mayoral election, crime was the dominant theme, even though it's stupid, but whatever. Helped buoy the current mayor for police officer Gabs to power. Sure. If it were happening 4 years ago, where crime was a big issue, I don't think Zohran would have won. Maybe, right? Because Zohran Mamdani would have just had to probably more effectively argue about how it's a red herring. It's complete nonsense to be complaining constantly about crime. It's strange. No monoliths in election season. Except to face Eric Adams. Blah, 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 blah. That includes black voters, but in order to succeed, Portia Allen Kyle, the executive director of the racial justice group Color of Change, believes Mamdani needs to understand the spectrum of viewpoints in the black community. Black voters are not a monolith. As we saw that on election day, I don't think Zohran Mamdani ever claimed that he thinks the black community is a fucking monolith. Should Zohran have visited more black churches to try to court black voters? Sure, but Zohran Mamdani decided to go ahead with a different strategy, and that is to bring out more lower propensity fucking voters. So again, I'm a little confused as to why FD Signifier is seemingly having a problem with the fact that Zohran Mamdani is not going ahead and talking about issues with the black community or something. Because again, if my assumption is correct, and if we're doing the same analysis as with previous Bernie Sanders campaigns, more than likely younger black people who probably don't come out to vote as often probably voted for Zohran, to be honest. And also older black people who are a very consistent sort of, not monolith, but very consistent voting bloc for the Democratic Party will always vote for the candidate they see as the most electable, the least risk adverse. And yeah, that's a great point, Boy Meets Minnie. We're ignoring the fact that Zohran spent his childhood in Africa. Yeah, he was born in Uganda, in Kampala, right? He's talked about sort of the fact that he doesn't identify as much with his sort of black roots or some shit. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what the quote he said was. That he finds it a little difficult to more identify with the black community. That's the actual quote, I would say, I think, right? Not black roots. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's my inherent, I guess, subconscious racism coming out. The critical racist theorist at it again, shaking my fucking head. But yeah, he was born in Uganda. I don't see why he would be anti-black in the slightest. It's merely a matter about the fact that he appeals to different like age demographics in comparison, right? That's really about it. And again, like generally speaking, a lot of like older black people are like typically vote blue no matter who people, or maybe they'll like vote for Eric Adams or something. I don't know. It's really difficult to say, right? It can like anything can fucking happen.
The fact that Andrew Cuomo won black people was something that was immediately brought to my attention as, of course, the king of the blacks, as everyone knows. I need to answer for all things black people are doing, even in states and cities that I have no connection to. And because I take that role very seriously, I realized I would have to respond because as far as I could tell, the people bringing this to my attention were doing it as some sort of gotcha, bitch, requiring me to answer for black people that didn't vote for the obvious progressive choice for mayor when I and others say all the time that black people are more progressive than the general population. If that's the case, FD, why didn't they vote for Mamdani, who clearly had the more progressive platform? Why did they vote for Andrew Cuomo? And in response, I have this to say. It's clear some of y'all white progressives did not learn shit from what happened to Bernie Sanders. It hit me while I was streaming.
Huh? Again, like age demographics. Who voted more? Again, this is why I want to see polling on like age demographics amongst the black community for as to who voted for who. Because I guarantee you, it's more than likely younger black people definitely voted for Zoran Mamdani. So, why are we sort of saying that black people are inherently sort of like more progressive? We've talked about like how a lot of older black people I think skew more conservatively because of their sort of idea that they want to be very risk adverse and prefer electability over anything else, which is a conservative attack broadly speaking on like progressive politics and policies. But aren't there like stories constantly about how like younger, more progressive black voters, generally speaking, have a lot of problems arguing with like older, like older black people about their votes for like more establishment Democratic candidates, right? Like it's a why are we just like trying to pin this all on like white progressives not learning anything? This is very strange, right? Like I think it's an age thing, I'll be honest. Like older black people just break more for the Democratic establishment candidate because, well, they're more risk adverse.
A couple of weeks ago that white progressives as a whole still are not ready for the moment because when I talked about the issue of race regarding Mamdani and I was talking about the historical truth that progressive policies have always been popular in America until you acknowledge or mention that those policies might benefit black people, and someone responded in my chat saying, well, that sounds defeatist. Fox Riemann says, no disrespect, that's a bit defeatist, but I get what you mean. It's not defeatist, it's just facts. I'm 5'11". If somebody tells me I'm too short to play in the NBA, that's not defeatist, that's just facts. And I was thrown at this being the response, but
aren't there plenty of short people that do play in the NBA, right? Like guards tend to be shorter than normal. I don't know. This NBA analogy is just a little strange to me, but I don't know. Maybe that is being defeatist. I'm not sure. Let me listen to that again.
Regarding Mamdani, and I was talking about the historical truth that progressive policies have always been popular in America until you acknowledge or mention that those policies might benefit black people. And someone responded in my chat saying,
he's not wrong.
well, that sounds defeatist. Fox Riemann says, no disrespect, that's a bit defeatist, but I get what you mean. It's not defeatist, it's just facts. I'm 5'11". If somebody tells me I'm too short to play in the NBA, that's not defeatist, that's just facts. And I was thrown at this being
okay, yeah, he's just talking like, yeah, I don't disagree with like FD Signifier saying like, yeah, white people will not want to vote for fucking progressive policy if it's said because there's like historical precedent, but I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. I'll be honest, because we're talking about this in terms of the framework of like white progressive voters. Like if we're talking about moderates, like the white moderate, yeah, sure, but like white progressive liberals would have that issue. Now, I don't know about that one, dude. That's a bit of a stretch, I think.
The response, but then I remembered that to a lot of white leftists, and especially white liberals, race matters are the equivalent to like a foreign language they've learned just enough about to get by while they're going to go on like an international trip. And the vast majority of them haven't even done that. To a lot of white leftists and white liberals, they're not racist because they understand why racism is a problem. They're doing it because they know it might get them in trouble. And that's why we keep on having this problem.
This seems a little reductive, I think. I think broadly speaking, like a lot of white progressive people have a pretty decent understanding about the history of, well, slavery, the failures of Reconstruction, segregation, the Jim Crow laws that sort of like came in to replace like slavery after the Civil War and the 13th and 14th amendments were written up and passed in order to like what abolish slavery within within America, except if you're in prison. But you know, we all know about that meme, right? This is a little strange, I'll be honest. Like, I'm a little perplexed here. Like, this seems to be like, I'm not sure if this is like an accurate sort of statement to say, but this seems to be like a little bit of like white progressive left bashing. Is that fair to say? This seems to be like really weird left bashing to me. And I don't really know, like, I mean, this is like a pattern of behavior that FD Signifier has engaged before in the past, right? Where he just like, I don't know, just has like, not like strange problems with like white progressives, but seemingly like near non-existent issues with like white progressive voters. Because again, if he like, okay, if he's talking about white moderate voters, okay, I understand. Like, yeah, I agree with that point. But progressives? Like more liberal progressive voters? I don't think I agree with that.
It's to the point that when I bring up how race has a significant impact on any mainstream political project, people slander me with being an identitarian or using liberal identity politics, when in reality, I'm just pointing out huge gap in basic knowledge and strategy.
Wait, but that's conservatives that do that mostly, right? Like, I don't... okay, you know what? I am the white progressive here. Yeah, I don't disagree with that point. Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Like, people will incredulously use, again, like, race and sort of, like, go after you for, like, doing id poll shit all the time. But the people who do that are typically, like, really annoying conservatives trying to masquerade as, like, liberals. Either that or just stupid neoliberals who are also just conservatives, right? Like, yeah, I can agree with that. But again, like, we're talking about this in the framework of white progressives. Like, more white, left, more white, more left-leaning people. So it's just like, no, I don't think I agree with this. I've not seen any indication of this before. I don't know.
That people need to understand, especially if you're serious about anything around major electoral movements. Like, I get being less interested in race matters for the more radical folks out there. It's still a flaw, but I get it. But if you genuinely care about progressive politicians and...
Wait, the more radical folks out... Wait, so you're okay with, like, class reductionism? Huh? What? This is very strange, dude. I think, honestly, okay... I think he just has, like, a problem with, like, white liberal progressives for some reason. And he's not really... I don't know if he's, like, articulating the main problem he has with, like, white liberal progressives. I'm a little confused. Right? I don't know. I can imagine FD talking down to us South Asian people telling us we don't understand what racism is. Yeah, I'm, like... I'm feeling very condescended to, right? Because I've examined history. I understand, like, the dynamics within race. Do I have, like, a sort of, like, in-depth telling? Like, trust me, I have a... Okay, I'm doing the meme, all right? I'm in a fucking Discord server with a bunch of black people in it, okay? And I've talked with them about these. I've known them for 7 years. I'm, like, pretty decently aware about a lot of their fucking experiences, right? Because, mostly to satiate my own curiosity, because I'm just like, well, I want to learn about this stuff, because I'm curious. Fundamentally speaking, I'm very open-minded, you know. I engage in subjective thinking. I want to, like, learn about this stuff. And, you know... They haven't really had a problem about telling me my stories, and generally don't find me, like, a pain in the ass to be around, except when I'm being, like, a little shit. But that's just me being, like, a little shit, you know, which is, like, whatever. Again, I'm just confused. Like, I'm being condescended to for, like, what reason? Like, what did we do? I think, like, white liberal progressive voters, broadly speaking, have an understanding about, like, race dynamics, right? But is it, like, as in-depth as it should be? Probably not, but, yeah, they can sympathize with it and are willing to listen and learn from it. Are there like biases that some of them might have to work through? Sure. That's everybody though, right? We can make the same argument with a lot of like black older conservative voters, more like liberal, like conservative, sort of like neoliberal, like black voters. They have a lot of their own sort of like risk adverse biases that they also have to work through. But then again, the problem with that is because a lot of that stuff is sort of like ingrained into them because of the systems that they grew up into, right? Because of like segregation and redlining and like systemic discrimination, right? Like, and a lot of like liberal progressive, like white liberal progressive people, I think like understand that, broadly speaking. Do they understand the full extent to it? Sure, like probably not. We can quibble about that or whatever. Do I know the full extent to it? Sure, but I'm aware of it, right? Like it's very strange, right? Yeah, it's a very good point, Boy Meets Minnie. Yeah, it's why so many non-Western diasporas are homophobic and patriarchal. Yeah, exactly. Like, we don't have to, like, do we need to talk about how many, like, different South Asian, like, Southeast Asian, like, polities are very, very patriarchal? We can go down the whole, like, rigmarole, fuck a McGee over all that stuff. Like, yeah, that's, like, a thing that happens constantly. So, again, I'm mostly just confused about like why the sort of specificity for white liberal progressives is mostly what I just don't really understand. And that's what I'm mostly confused about, I think.
Voting and winning elections and haven't done a full inventory on why Bernie Sanders lost black voters twice, then you have a lot to learn. And know, as much as I hate Jim Clyburn, it's not as simple as him controlling black voters. I'll explain by offering a little lore dump. I want to again admit that I was not and still am not a huge Bernie Sanders guy. To me, he's the best that exists in a political party that has almost nothing to offer, but that's got less to do with Bernie as an individual and more to do with the party as a whole. And I am very different now than I was in 2016 when it comes to politics, when Bernie emerged as a major player in the Democratic Party. And I liked everything they was saying back then.
But again, like younger black voters overwhelmingly supported Bernie Sanders. It's older black voters that voted for the more establishment candidates. There's a divide there in terms of thought, in terms of like ages of thinking, I think, right? Where a lot of the systems that existed before, like segregation, redlining, and sort of like all this other like systemic discrimination that has happened throughout the United States in the past like century, a lot of that has been sort of, you know, curtailed, I would say. Not defeated. I don't think it's been defeated per se. I would say is like significantly less. And I don't know if like you can attest to this, Boy Meets Minnie. I mean, like, I mean, you're not black, but I mean, you're South Asian. But like, the thing is that a lot of these like systems of discrimination that used to occur and exist before within like the black community, I don't think all like were they only like applied within the black community. It was meant to mostly target the black community, but it could also have been used to target other minority communities as well. Like, should we forget about what the Chinese Act of what, like 1890 something? What? Like, it's also, yeah, it's prevented immigration for decades. That's true, Boy Meets Minnie. That's a systemic discriminatory fault against probably not only like South Asians, but also I would say a lot of Latinos and or you know, people like that. Yeah, the Chinese Exclusion Act is like the main thing that comes up to my mind. So I don't think this is like you know, I don't think it's not just like an issue for black people, right? I think it's an issue for like every sort of minority population that it broadly exists within the United States. Like, there's all been this systemic discrimination for a lot of people, but we can sort of like talk about like have black people gotten it worse in the relative scale of things? Yes, absolutely. I would definitely agree with that. But again, like, this isn't like a thing that's just exclusive for black people. Like, I don't think so, right? If I'm understanding this position correctly, I could be entirely wrong here.
I had not taken real leftist political ideology seriously, even though I've been greatly exposed to it, because like many black people, while I desired the socialism promised by Bernie Sanders and his movement, I had no faith that there was any chance it would win, and I didn't low-key trust that it was sincere. I was like most black people, especially post-Obama, very cynical and nihilistic towards our political system, and invested in maintaining the status quo because the opposing options seemed like bigger threats. I had a lot to learn.
Okay, I'm trying to think, but isn't that like more of a, again, like I feel like FD is not sort of, is he like addressing like the sort of age divide here? Because I can see like younger black people thinking like that, right? That makes sense to me. But older black people, I don't think so, right? So, like, yeah, like which is it? Is this like a general black community problem, or is this like again like a sort of age distinction, right?
Like most millennials my age, black and otherwise, right? Getting that out the way. It's been steady growth since then, growth that is far from being done. However, one hill I'm still dying on is recognizing how poorly Bernie Sanders, and more specifically, a lot of his supporters, manage black skepticism towards him. To this day, I, like a lot of black folks, including black leftists and progressives, find it incredibly frustrating that Bernie supporters don't realize how bad they came off to black people at that time and how that hampered his movement. I know and understand the Bernie bro concept might be overblown, and it was a talking point developed by establishment Dems and the right to create a negative feedback loop between Bernie and black voters, but that doesn't mean it was a completely false narrative. I met numerous Bernie bro stereotypes in real life way back in 2016, and each one of those encounters left me more convicted in thinking that Bernie was nothing special. White leftists and progressives.
I don't really understand, again, like what is the, like what's like an example, like what's an argument, right? Yeah, like Rogan Bernie bros, but that's like a minority, I would say, right? I don't think there's that many, like, what is he talking about, like dirtbag leftists or something? Really? Like, even dirtbag leftists, broadly speaking, acknowledge systemic discrimination and acknowledge that that is a big problem, right? And broadly speaking, they also acknowledge that, again, like, a lot of younger black people voted for the more broader sort of, like, progressive candidate for, like, with Bernie Sanders, and have said before that there's, like, an argument between, like, older black people and younger black people constantly, right? Like, I'm still a little confused here, I'll be honest.
Have deeply rooted anti-black tendencies and are far less accomplished in addressing those issues than they like to think. Like, I need y'all to consider the fact that Vaush was, and to an extent still is, a prominent, influential figure.
Okay, there it is. That's... yeah, still obsessed with Vaush. Okay, everything makes more sense now. Now he's just mad about Vaush. That's what it is. Now, you could say that I'm being fucking dishonest here, but again, I'm trying to, like, honestly fucking engage with what's going on here. Vaush has, like, like, when he studied sociology, one of his minors was in, like, what? Crime studies. Like, he studied about, like, crime and shit like that. He understands a lot about, like, the systemic discriminations that black people face. Like, he doesn't shy away from that. He talks about that. And he's talked about it before, very oftenly. Is this because of, like, Vaush not, is this about the Vaush, like, black nationalism fucking takes that he used to have before, where he conflated black nationalism with black supremacism? And then he sort of, like, learned that, oh, wait, they're, like, two completely fucking different things? Then I don't think that this is, like, a sort of, like, prescription you can do on, like, all white liberal progressives. This seems very, very fucking dishonest, I'll be quite honest. Like, I consider Vaush ignorant of politics outside the US, but that's a specific conniption I have. Not in terms of Ukrainian issues, right? He's quite good in terms of Ukraine. And sometimes he'll do, like, some looking into other politics and, like, elections in, I don't know, South Asia and stuff like that. But he doesn't, like, really cover it all that much, right? And I don't know if you've seen, like, I don't know, him talk about, like, the India-Pakistan war in particular, Boy Meets Mini, but I don't know if there's, like, anything you'd say that's, like, sussy there in particular. I don't know if there's really anything sussy, to be honest. I think FD Signifier is just, like, more still hyper fixated on the part on the sort of, like, problem that Vaush used to have before with the conflation between black nationalism and black supremacism, because he used to do that, right? I can agree to that is not like an honest framing there by Vaush, but I think it's because he was more undereducated on the sort of issue there. I'll be honest. Not that I'm saying I'm particularly well educated. I'm not going to pretend to say that I'm well educated, but I can understand the differences between what black supremacism is and black nationalism, right? So it's whatever, right?
You're in the online left and has only been sidelined because of his love of horses, not because of his persistent liberal racism among
Persistent liberal racism? Okay. Like, no, he's edgy. No! Drat. Curses. Curse the edgy boy for being edgy. Whatever. I think he came out of that particular thing saying that neither side is good. It's like, yeah, they're both just kind of bad, if I recall correctly. He's saying, like, yeah, Pakistan is bad, so is India. They're both just bad, I think, is his position.
other things. And I'm at a point now where I realize that, like, there's a lot of people in my audience that don't know who Vaush is, which is good. Please don't look it up. Just imagine, like, the parents from Get Out. Like, imagine the white families from Get Out. Imagine what their kid might be like. You kind of get an idea. People like Sean Head are also ardent.
What? Okay. What? Isn't the... I think I'm gonna steal Vaush's, because I've saw him take a look at this video in particular, right? Vaush saw Get Out, and broadly speaking, described the family, because I haven't seen the fucking movie, right? I probably should see Get Out. Isn't the white family that's being described there in Get Out white moderate? Vaush is not a white moderate. Like, what do you mean? What? He believes in what? Radical emancipatory action for the workers seizing the fucking means of production. Broadly speaking, like, a lot, again, the only reason why people have these takes about Vaush is because, what, he said you should vote for Joe Biden in 2020 because it'd be really bad if Trump gets back into office, which he was correct about, and because of, like, the Professor Flowers debate. Like, that's all that it is. Yeah, this is very like, basing, like, all white liberal progressives based off of I don't know, goofy horseman, I think is very disingenuous.
Bernie supporters, and I'm getting DMs from other leftists who are calling me to make a statement about black people not voting for Mamdani. Y'all have some work to do. A whole lot of white progressives and leftists have a long way to go in recognizing those.
Are those Vaush fans doing it? I'm very confused here. Like, are those, like, white progressive, like, broadly speaking? I don't know, like, who the fuck is, like, messaging FD Signifier? I feel like he's just... It's, like, a strange conflationary thing that he's doing here, and between, like, not acknowledging, like, the sort of, like, dynamics between, like, younger black people and, like, older black people for some reason in terms of, like, their political differences. Like, I don't know, this just seems very weird.
Anti-black tendencies, especially when they feel like they're in the right about a political movement. And establishment Democratic strategists played on that in 2016, and they're going to do it again with Mamdani. And the same fan base is going to play right into their hands. How many times I need to hear from Bernie Sanders or from a Bernie Sanders fan that he marched with Martin Luther King? Y'all, why did you think you were cooking with that? That wasn't as bad as Hillary with the hot sauce in her bag comment, but it was in the same realm. And if you don't like hearing that, that's because you're part of the problem.
What? Dude, fucking Hillary Clinton did the super predator thing about black people. Like, huh? What? Comparing, like, Bernie Sanders to Hillary Clinton in this particular respect is very fucking strange to be. Again, like, the thing is like, yeah, older black people are just gonna vote for whoever's the establishment Democrat because they're concerned about electability first and foremost, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, even as the Al Jazeera article said, like, they're more about, like, being risk adverse. I wonder how much FD has commented on age caps within the black community. I'm sure he has. Probably. I have no reason to make that assumption, but, like, or to not make that assumption or something. Whatever. I'm just confused, I'll be honest, about what's, like, the sort of things that are being described here. I don't know, like, I think he just has, like, a particular problem with, like, Vaush, that he just does doesn't want to let go for some reason. Is mostly what I'm sensing here.
And this is all before we get to phrases like low information voters. Woo! The unforced errors with y'all. You can, if you want, to say that this was all a smear campaign to frame the Bernie Sanders movement as racially tone deaf and overtly white. And to some extent, I want to be clear, it definitely was a smear campaign, but it was still successful. And it was only successful because white progressives were so underdeveloped in their understanding of race and engaging with the topic that they couldn't defend effectively against it. And that's partially...
What? Okay, when people are talking about what low information voters, they're talking about like people, broadly speaking, who are not really tuned into politics, just kind of like go with the motion and just vote along like a particular party line because that's just like the kind of thing that they're doing, right? Like, I don't think it's not ridiculous to say that there are low information voters out there, right? Like, and trying to like prescribe it to like I don't know like particular races of people. This seems very strange to me, right? Like that's a broader problem with with like the death of education that has happened within the United States. The sort of like non-teaching of, I would say, broader sort of civic duties and civic education within the United States of America, because again, there are capitalistic forces in play that don't want people to learn about that stuff due to the fact that, well, you know, they don't want like a significantly educated proletariat who would be more interested in rising up against capitalism. Like that's not just a black community issue. That's an everybody issue.
Because so many of these organizations and communities were devoid of black people to actually engage with and have conversations with about these issues. And if actual black leftists are resistant to being a part of your space, that again says something about your space, not about us. If you're still shocked, indignant, and in denial of what I'm saying here, you're probably part of the problem. If your reflex here is defend your susceptibility to the strategy that we have clear proof of working, then you are not ready for what comes next. It should not be lost on you that Jim Clyburn, the man whose only real role in the Democratic Party is to deliver the black vote, specifically here, the largest population of black voters, which are black boomers and petite bourgeois folks, he came out in support of Cuomo all the way from South Carolina for no other reason than to create the exact result that happened. Cuomo has...
Wait, I'm curious. Okay, I'm curious. Did Jim Clyburn endorse Zoran Mamdani?
Governor Andrew Cuomo in the New York City Democratic primary race, not Assemblyman Zoran Mamdani, who ended up winning that primary. At this point, do you support Mamdani's candidacy as the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York?
Absolutely, I do. I support Democratic nominees. The fact of the matter is, my relationship with Cuomo goes back to when he was Secretary of...
Huh? Jim Clyburn said he absolutely supports Mamdani. What? What does that mean? I'm so confused, dude. Like, Clyburn initially endorsed Cuomo, yeah, because he's an establishment candidate, first and foremost, right? And black boomers, yeah, have ended up voting for Zoran, for Cuomo as a result, which is why he ended up losing about that. And then he says he absolutely supports Zoran. I'm trying, like you're saying, Boy Meets Minnie, yeah, FD trying to invent problems where they don't exist. I'm failing to see the issue here, like, unless there's, like, something that I'm completely unaware of. Maybe someone can tell me, but, like, I don't understand, dude. Like, he said he previously dissed Andrew Cuomo, and he absolutely supports Zoran Mamdani. Whatever that exactly means. It's not like a full-throated endorsement. It's more like a tepid, like, yeah, he's the Democratic nominee. I support him or something. He's like maybe like just falling in line behind Zoran or something in comparison to like a lot of other establishment Democratic figures from New York. We'll get to like people like, I don't know, Hakeem Jeffries and Richie Torres. But the only reason why Hakeem Jeffries and Richie Torres don't like Zoran Mamdani in particular is because of the fact that they're bought by AIPAC. Like, They're bought by AIPAC. I don't know to what extent that Jim Clyburn has gotten like money from AIPAC or other Israeli lobbies. That doesn't really matter, but we understand why people like Richie Torres and like Hakeem Jeffries do not like Zoran Mamdani, and that's because they're bought. Again, still failing to see like what exactly is the issue here.
Has been iffing at staying in the race as an independent, but it looks like he won't, especially after Al Sharpton of all
Yeah, even Al Sharpton. Wait, I'm gonna listen to this.
people urged him not to. And you might think, well, hey, that's actually good. That means he might swing more people towards Mamdani. No, I think he's going to support Eric Adams. Eric Adams is playing a very dirty game right now and using classic tricks that happen with powerful black men in black spaces who cover up their wrongdoings by cleaving to issues of race in the black church. When you look at Eric Adams speaking these days, he's surrounded by all the recurring characters in the background. It looks like a clip from the Boondocks. And the thing, guys,
But that's like literally all Eric Adams does in order to do deflections for his bullshit, for his like rank corruption. Yeah, like Eric Adams only race baits. Like that's it. He race baits all the time. It's not hyperbolic or like I don't know, in like a subconsciously racist thing that I'm saying. Like I think that's just a fact. He does that all the time. Like he gets in trouble. He has like a controversy about something. He'll like surround himself with like a bunch of like minorities and just be like mostly black people saying like I can't believe people are going after me because of, you know, systemic discrimination that has happened before. Like that's just like dishonest. That's incredulous. Again, I'm still a little confused. Yeah, Eric to Pakistan. Yeah, New York is the Islamabad of America. How many times has he done that before to different communities, saying like New York is is insert capital of country here of America. New York is the insert capital here of country of America. Like Eric Adams race baits like a motherfucker. He does that all the fucking time to different communities, right? Like that's just like a rhetorical tactic he does.
I know is that a lot of you do not know how to engage with the population that's being presented there. And that population is still very important to anybody that's trying to win an election
like
pretty much anywhere in this country. Now, just off numbers, I don't think Mamdani will lose to Adams. Adams has his own scandal, like I just said, as well as the taint of Donald Trump on him right now. And there still is an actual Republican candidate, so it's like they're probably going to end up siphoning votes off each other. But they're already testing waters on how to utilize anti-blackness to derail Mamdani's wave. I'm already seeing TikToks complaining that Mamdani didn't support Kamala Harris, which is some bullshit. But trust me, I know it carries weight with some black folks. And then we also have this story about him allegedly putting African American on his college applications, which the unfortunate.
Wait, hold on. Wasn't it found out that the dude who did who wrote that Substack article was a race realist? That complete utter smear from the New York Times? Yeah, he didn't get into Columbia anyways. Like I think it's more so to focus on the fact that Mayor Eric Adams is just going along with like a New York Times smear hit job on Zoran Mamdani that's based off of like a race realist, which is inherently incredulous. This is very like I'm sensing some fucking bullshit, dude. This is some fucking nonsense. Yeah, like this is not like listen. We can even find this out. New York Times Zoran Mamdani, African American on university source. What's the name of the dude? Is mostly what I want to find. Son of a bitch. Scooped by Chris Rufo. What's the name of the dude? Large scale of the criticism focused on the source of the documents, an online figure known for using the pseudonym Cremu. Cremu? According to The Guardian, Cremu is the alias of Jordan Lasker. The Times later updated the article to note that Cremu writes about often about IQ and race. A race science blogger goes mainstream. FD, my dude, he's a race science, like, he's a race realist. Like, it's inherently, like, dishonest. Like, again, like, are we just falling for the meme? Or, like, what's going on here? Okay. Like, Eric Adams is wielding that incredulously because he doesn't give a fuck, right? He'll race bait when it's like completely efficacious for him, but he'll do like liberal racism shit all the time. And like you're like blaming white progressives for like liberal fucking racism, primarily speaking, when Eric Adams is basically referenced a New York Times like smear hit piece written by and used sources from a race realist. Like, come on, FD. Like, are we for real?
Force errors with y'all are astounding. You low-key do not deserve to win for doing this type of dumb shit. But we move forward. And we move forward because Mamdani does have a degree in African American studies, and his father is low-key, from what I heard, a pretty significant figure in that field. And so I assume that he knows how to maneuver around these issues.
Well, I thought you were supposed to know all this stuff, you know. The quote-unquote the king of black people or something. I'm being a little facetious here.
Way better than Bernie Sanders did, and maybe that'll set a different tone for his followers. But I'm less worried about him and more worried about y'all. I don't know if y'all are disciplined enough not to repeat the same mistakes of 2016. I don't know if you all have built a ground game to be present in black spaces to actually talk to those voters, as opposed to try to debate and browbeat them and shame them into voting for a candidate that is better than the one they're thinking about voting for. And again, I don't know if y'all appreciate the fact that me and like 20 other black...
I'm still confused. Like, what is the sort of like evidence and like amount of like white liberal progressives who browbeat and tried to debate like older black boomers into voting for more progressive? Again, like has this happened? Probably, but isn't this like, from what I understand, a bigger issue with younger black voters who do the debate broing stuff? Are we just like falling for like different internet avatars or some shit? I'm so confused, honestly. I still don't really understand. Like, I could be like super dishonest and just say like, oh, FD Signifier is just saying the things that he's saying because he just has a problem with like white liberal progressives, and he just has like a problem with white people. And like, I'm like, honestly, like, have I gotten to the point that is just like what I should say and that should be the case? Yeah, sure. Fuck it. Whatever. Get the like dishonesty out of here. Sure. I don't give a shit about that. Right? I don't think I really have a problem with that statement, because like honestly, I'm like listening to the argument here. I'm still like trying to understand like exactly like what did they do? What did they do? Like, so far it's like problems with Vaush and like not acknowledging the sort of like age demographic sort of like split within the black community or something. Like, because I think that's like the main thing to point to.
Leftist creators that came up in the last couple of years for this entire time were in unison pointing at Vaush and the white leaf community as a problem, and we couldn't seem to break through to a lot of people until he got caught up.
Yeah, it's still Horseman, such a big problem in the white leaf community. Like, what are you talking about? Like, again, it's just Vaush. He just has a problem with Vaush. That's like, honestly, I'm like getting pretty much close to the point that it's just Vaush. He still has a problem with Vaush.
Up on his taxes. If you know, you know. There's going to need to be some internal audit.
I think it's just Vaush.
Get tripped up by this stuff. This movement is really going to need to mobilize black Gen Zs and millennials to cancel out the votes of their parents and grandparents who will show up to vote. They are definitely going to show up to vote. Will the young people show up to vote? That's another question. That's always the question.
But yeah, are they going to vote for Eric Adams or are they going to vote for Zohran Mamdani? Like, you have not really acknowledged this whatsoever, right? Like, we don't really know. Because generally speaking, they're all vote blue no matter who. And are they going to be big fans of Eric Adams? Well, that remains to be another fucking question. Because, again, like, you even said yourself before, he's scandal written. It's very, really, it's so... It's just, like, weird shit. This is just weird. Is this just hater? I think he's just a hater. Understandable, okay? I, too, am also a hater.
And you're going to have to engage that population without coming off like debate bros, which is going to be hard because I know a lot of you only hear a black voice when you click my videos. And even then, I don't think some of y'all are fucking listening. And for those black...
I don't, like, when was the last time Vaush even did a debate? Right? The only time he, like, debates people is when he's just, like, yelling at his chat. Like, that's it. Otherwise, like, that man has not done a debate in, like, 2 years. Like, at all. Bro just doesn't debate anymore. Like, I don't know. Yeah, he had enough with, like, the Mr. Girl shit, right? Because, and understandable, because Mr. Girl is just, like, trying to, like, kowtow pedophilia or some shit, and was trying to make, like, Vaush agree with, like, pedophilia takes or some shit. Because, and I understand, because it's just, like, he's already acknowledged, because even then, he was just, like, not really debating conservatives, because, again, like, if you look at the conservative debates he's done before, he's just like, dude, I've had enough. Like, it's just, there's no point in debating these people. They don't exist in reality. And he's talked with, like, hundreds of them at that point. And it's just like, dude, there's no point. Like, these people just don't acknowledge reality. There's no point in talking with people who don't acknowledge reality. Like, you can't get through to them. It's impossible. Which, yeah, that's a correct position with, like, conservatives. They don't believe in reality. Like, I think he just has a problem with Vaush. That's it.
Z's and millennials locked in with Mom Donnie because he has reached y'all. Don't get mad at me here. Call me an unk if you want. But I need y'all to go to church. I need y'all to put on your best outfits, to press your hair out, to cover up whatever tattoos, take all your piercings out your face, and I need y'all to go to church every Sunday until Election Day and talk to those aunties and uncles who are not convinced about him, and you're going to need to be patient and empathetic and not judgmental and smarmy, which I know is hard for all leftists. I've had these same conversations with my own aunts and uncles and parents and whatnot. It is not easy, but they are movable, because what I think a lot of leftists and progressives, even black folks, don't fully understand is that black voting habits aren't driven by ideology, they're driven by cynicism and survival instinct. I had a great talk with Maurice Mitchell from the Working Families Party, who was a Mom Donnie supporter, on the Signifier podcast channel, and he explained an important thing people don't understand about black voting habits.
Because black people, we're operating on multiple levels. Not only do we vote on the values we believe in, we also have a consciousness that is...
Yeah, it's also... dude, it's the same thing with fucking East Europeans. Like, this isn't... I don't think... This isn't a distinct thing with, like, black people, I'll be honest. Like, I think my mom is probably movable. My dad's not movable. Like, that's a fucking sunk ship. I don't bother debating my dad. I can have conversations with my mother. Absolutely. And she's open to conversations because, generally speaking, otherwise I don't really, like, talk with her about, like, much of us else of anything. This is, like, I think this is just a broader general problem with just older people, honestly. Because, again, have you ever talked about, like, pro-socialism movements with, like, East European parents? Oh boy, I can tell you some fucking stories about talking about workplace democracy and emancipation and, you know, workers seizing the means of production with East European parents. It's a fucking doozy, okay? I also, you know what I did? And I was proud of this. I managed to convince a bunch of them to vote in, like, the provincial Ontario elections for the NDP, pointing out mostly problems with the Conservatives, saying, like, they are the second option. They are the oppositional party right now to the Conservatives. And they were just like, well, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, yeah, Conservatives are just, like, pretty, like, dog shit. Yeah, I've broken through. I've been successful. I know what it's like. And yeah, you have to be very patient and empathetic. Like, if you just get, like, mad and you start yelling at them, it's over. It's done. Like, they're gonna pull out the parent authority card and shit like that, and it's not gonna fucking work. Like, I know, I've done it before. I'm an East European. I understand the sort of, like, grind, you know? It's a pain in the ass, right? And I have the constant, like, debates with my mom all the time. Like, she's more I think she's movable on, like, economic problems, on, like, kitchen table issues, I'll be honest. In terms of, like, race and, like, immigration stuff, it's complete, like, suburbia fucking brain rot there. I'm probably not gonna break through there. Like, ain't no fucking way that's probably happening, or it'd be, like, really, really difficult. But, like, she used to be very, like, more reactionary in terms of homelessness. But I've broken through to her in terms of, like, homelessness issues. Like, I have. With the help of, like, friends of mine. because otherwise she'll like never she'll like never listen to me initially. She has decided to stop doing that sort of like reactionary tendency because of like, you know, I used to be very impatient with her and like yell and argue with her basically over like anything all the time. But that's because she would never like treat me as like a human being. It's the conservative tendency of like, you know, parents treating their children as like ciphers or simulacra or homunculi that is meant to be imprinted. And that was my parents' strategy when they were trying to raise me. They were trying to imprint their sort of habits onto me, and it just didn't work. And eventually, like, after I went to university and like got halfway through to university, they recognized, they were just like, yeah, we fucked up. They still trot out these like, I'm going to say it's kind of an excuse, because it's kind of an excuse, saying like, well, you don't come with like an instruction manual. Like, it doesn't, like, in parenting is like not something that works. It's just like, okay, but like at some point you have to acknowledge that there's agency on your side, and if you're noticing like a particular pattern, you should be able to recognize that and be able to adapt to that, quite literally. Right? That's a whole other conversation tangent in of itself, but same thing with like what I'm saying here in terms of like FD Signifier. And like you've been saying, Boy Meets Mini, you're all too familiar at arguing with the fucking unks. This isn't just a black issue. This is an every sort of like minority boomer issue, to be honest. Like South Asia in general, especially East Europe. Right? This is a big problem with East Europe.
Into what we think the majority white country we live in will accept.
Again, there's going to be a reflexive defense from some of you to call this identity politics. Please don't take this as me being negative towards Mamdani, because some of y'all are sensitive like that. I understand. I'm just trying to help in my own way and recognize that the numbers might be of such that this doesn't matter in New York. But understand, Jim Clyburn and the Dem establishment are not going away anytime soon. There will be opportunities to shift the Overton window to weaken their power in the Democratic Party in the next few years. And if folks who are invested in electoralism aren't also invested in building connections to black voter strongholds and unpacking their own anti-black tendencies, then the establishment is going to run the exact same play on y'all like Jordan is trying.
I still don't understand what the anti-black tendencies from white liberal progressives are, I'll be honest. Like them not going like full-throated, I don't know, with the kente cloth or some shit. I don't understand. Do they need to do the Nancy Pelosi kneeling thing or something? I don't understand, like, what is the anti-black tendencies? I'm so confused. Go to the Vietnamese and Korean majority areas of LA and count the MAGA hats. I'm not shitting you. Yeah, exactly. Like, people are complicated. Literally, when I was like driving back from ordering food, because I like ordering shawarma on Wednesdays, right? I just ordered takeout. I saw a dude who had I counted like 3 stickers saying that, yeah, Filipinos for Duterte and shit like that. Like, no cap. Like, a lot of people are just like extremely like ridiculous, like reactionary people sometimes, and that's just like how it is. A lot of like, honestly, instead of like saying that this is like a race issue, this is just an age issue, right? Instead of like, honestly, I think instead of like being racist, you need to be ageist, to be quite honest.
Offense in the 90s. Please make adjustments. Let's talk about today's sponsor. For those who don't know,
all right, we're done with this. I don't know, like a lot of the sort of like things here that I think FD Signifier is prescribing here is, I think, more of an issue with just older people in general, not with progressive like white liberals and like younger black people who, broadly speaking, like voted in droves for, well, Bernie Sanders, and then just like kind of conflating the whole thing to just the broader general like black community, right? Like a lot of like black people are just like very, very conservative. Like, I don't know, try to talk about like older black people in terms of like not race issues. They'll be like, they're not gonna have a problem with race issues, right? But in terms of, say, like more like queer social issues, perfect example of this, quite literally, I would say Dave Chappelle, I think, is like a perfect example of this, right? generally speaking, like perfectly describes like the race dynamics between like white and black America throughout all of the media and like sort of like stand-up critique that he has done throughout his career. But when it comes to fucking trans people, oh boy, like he immediately just was like incredibly ignorant and just basically just went with like the transphobe turf like J.K. Rowling line, right? Like I think this is just like an issue with like social dynamics and just with like people just being old and blinkered and living during times of like segregation and stuff like that, right? I think that's just mostly what it is. And like white liberals, like not white liberals, I don't like white progressives, broadly speaking, understand and acknowledge that. But are they the ones generally speaking like speaking to like older black people? I don't really like I don't think so. I think it's mostly like younger black people that are doing that more so because they're gonna have more older black people in their lives. So like I don't know. I think it's just very strange conflations that FD Signifier is mostly sort of engaging with here, broadly speaking. I mean, like, Zoran Mamdani had a very broad, like, coalition of differing peoples, ethnicities, cultural affiliations, and religious backgrounds supporting him throughout his campaign. And again, like, I would really like to know what those age demographics were for the black people that voted between Cuomo and Zoran Mamdani, because I guarantee you it's younger black people are definitely voting more for Zoran Mamdani. I like that's like the easiest bet of all bets. So again, honestly I think all I really have to come away with here in terms of what FD Signifier is saying here in particular is I think it's just the fact that he just still has a particular problem with Vaush, and that's like honestly I don't think there's like really anything else to say besides I think he just still has a problem with fucking Horseman and like general like white people for some reason. Like I'm not really like coming away with anything else besides that, to be honest.